Ian Blackwood Talks Smack podcast. My guest today is Steve Sapienza. Did I get that right, Steve?
Perfect delivery.
Steve, can we say you're a retired musician?
I wouldn't say, no, not quite yet.
Okay.
Not quite yet. But unofficially retired.
Okay.
So I guess.
Sabbatical?
So.
You're on a sabbatical.
Yeah, sabbatical. That's perfect word. Perfect.
You're on a sabbatical. Steve was a guitar player, songwriter in a band called Party Cat.
Mm-hmm.
Any other bands you played in?
Yeah, we did like kind of like a boxcar racer thing at the end there. It was called In This Alone. It was just a little studio project that we ended up shooting a music video, and we never played any shows, so it was just like a passion project.
That's cool.
Which actually got a little bit more hype than Party Cat.
Funnily enough, eh?
Ironically enough, yeah. But yeah, that was just a little passion project, which brings me back to the sabbatical because there is always that flirtation there that we would like to do some shows if the timing and the schedules line up. So yeah, that was called In This Alone.
So the classic getting a little bit older, growing up a little bit, and then the schedule start. You know, it's different, right? So you're not 16 anymore, you're not 20 anymore.
Exactly. Like, I don't think we would definitely ever tour it, but we could probably do some shows if we could pull it all together.
Right.
It was actually like probably some of the best music I ever wrote. Oh, nice. With the guys.
And you said it was kind of like Boxcar Racer, like
that. Punk, like no, not the style of music, just the idea behind it. Like when
okay, got you. Sorry,
and Tom and those guys,
right?
Just was like, oh, we wanted to do like an outlet, something that was completely different than Party Cat.
Well, speaking of Party Cat, why heavy music? What was the big? Because I mean, Party Cat was pretty like hard rocking. Like I guess when Josh joined, there was a little more vocal dynamic, but you guys were always pretty heavy. What do you call that? I mean, grindcore? I don't know.
I think at that time when the band was just emerging and we were just figuring out who we are, what we're going to do, like it was the Southern rock.
Southern rock, yeah.
The bands like Memphis Mayfire were doing it. Every Time I Die. It was like that Southern
grimy,
heavy, like bar rock.
Yeah.
But with metal.
Okay.
And all the bands are like that, like riff core.
Yeah.
You know,
there's so many names for it.
We never really knew what we were doing. I don't think we even knew what we were doing at the end. It just kind of, we just pushed and made it happen. Like we just kept going and pushing it. So.
Right. What was heavy music for you right off the bat, like at the get-go? Like, what got you? Like, what was one of your favorite bands that got you into this sort of Southern rock stuff?
To keep it short, like for the longest time, again, we were just talking about Under Oath.
That's right.
Before this, so a long time ago, before YouTube and everything, I remember watching an Under Oath music video on Much Music, and I never caught the band's name. And this is at a very young age, and it was on Much Loud. And I was up much later than my bedtime allowed for me, and I was obsessed with this song, and I only heard it once or twice, and it wasn't until like maybe like 10 years ago that I finally found out that was Under Oath.
Right.
And once I discovered that, it was actually a friend of mine who was like, oh, have you ever heard of Under Oath? And they played it for me. I was like, this is the song I've been talking about forever. And that was like the first heavy band that got me into heavy music.
Right.
Unfortunately, I found out about that album much too late because it was already out for like 4 years at that point. But it was Under Oath that first started me in heavy music. And then I got into the Bermuda Horizon,
right?
Every Time I Die, and so on and so forth. Right. So,
and Loud, what Steve was explaining to Much Loud and Much Music, and Loud was an offshoot channel of Much Music, which was a Canadian music channel. Is this still around? I don't even know if it's.
Man, I don't have cable, and that's not because like we can't afford it or anything. I don't think anyone watches music videos on TV anymore.
I know,
it's the digital age. So,
but in that time, Much Loud was the offshoot of. They played a little more explicit stuff. They played heavier stuff, the punk rock stuff, the metal stuff, and it was. I remember at one point it was just a looped channel. It just constantly played videos. I remember at that one point in like 2010, 9ish or whatever, 8ish, and they started just playing videos after videos. It wasn't even TV segments. I think it was just playing Much Loud, the channel, basically.
Yeah, that was at the end. Yeah, I remember that.
Nice. So Party Cat, I mean, you guys were like such a cool band, and especially when when you kind of started figuring out the lineup and when you guys finally settled on a singer for a little while, and you guys were grinding it out. You were doing some pretty van trailer type touring and doing Warped Tour type touring. And what's like? So maybe Steve, what's some of your favorite memories of working the grind with the guys? And you guys were known for always a dynamic show.
Yep.
Josh was known for climbing the rafters and.
Every show definitely was a new experience. None of us ever went into a show now that I look back on it, it was like completely raw, never harnessed. Like I don't think we ever harnessed our capabilities, but that's what made Party Cat what it was. It was just every day was something different.
Right.
I think some of my favorite memories was me and a couple of the guys, like we still hang out all the time. Josh unfortunately did move to Australia, so he's out there just
hey Josh, away. How's Australia, man?
Yeah, he's staying warm, like we're freezing out here, but so obviously I haven't seen Josh since he's moved, but some of our favorite memories, or at least mine anyways, like the last American tour we did, it was just like a 30-day banger, and the highlight of that was like when we were playing in New Mexico, man, and it was specifically Albuquerque, and at that time I just finished watching Breaking Bad.
Nice.
And we literally went to like Walter White's house, and it was like, it's crazy because like I was in the beginning of this band, like I was day one and started it in my mom and dad's basement, and then like flash forward like 4 years later, and we're like in New Mexico. Like we've been to like all the places in Canada, which like makes sense. So, you know, we're from Canada, so we hit all the cities, the major cities. Yeah.
But which makes sense, but they're so fucking far away from each other.
But I mean, we're from Canada, so we had to.
Absolutely.
That's what we had to do. But when we were like in Albuquerque, New Mexico, playing a show, and we've never been there before, and like the kids, like the show sucked, like it sucked. But until we went on, like we were playing with like high school, like possibly even grade school talent show bands. Like playing, I remember like playing "Damn It," but like terribly, like they were learning it on the spot basically. And then when we went on, like we were an established band, and like at least we could play our songs anyways. And like the kids were like blown away, and we were like rock stars to them,
right?
And like that's how it was. Like on these American tours, like we weren't playing with, like we weren't supporting big bands yet. So we were always like the headline band,
right?
Like the big fish in the little pond, right?
Yeah.
So every time we played, we would just blow people away, and like that specific show, that city, like that was like the highlight, man. Like Albuquerque, like I never thought the band would ever be playing in the middle of a friggin' desert. You know what I mean? So
and being a Breaking Bad fan, like
oh my god, like we went.
Did you go to the house?
Yeah, we went to the house.
Did you get yelled at?
No, she was super nice to us.
Oh, because she yells at people now.
Yeah. Well, they said that beforehand.
She yelled at me. She literally yelled at me. And I was, God, I must have been almost like 50 or 60 yards from the house. And she started yelling. I was like, I'm not even near that.
She sits in the garage. Yeah. We were like, well, obviously, if you've been there, at first we're like, well, like, is this the right place? And then we started seeing all the security equipment. And no, she was super chill.
That's cool. I'm glad your experience was not my experience.
Super chill. That was super chill.
Did you go to the car wash too?
Car wash. Yeah, we went to the... I don't remember. Like it was just so surreal, man. Like,
I didn't know you were such a Breaking Bad fan. That's actually really because that's got to be one of my all-time favorite shows. I
like my wife, like she forced it on me. Like we gotta watch it. I'm like nah. Like Mr. Cool Guy, you know what I mean?
Right.
Everything is not cool enough. So and then I got into it and I was like, she does this. She puts the shows on and then it's either like I'm watching and then I get hooked or I'm like no, turn it off right away. But this one, it stuck to me. And,
dude.
And I just finished it before we went on this tour. And it wasn't like...
It was meant to be.
Yeah, it's not like I purposely planned it. And it's just like, wow, we're here now. And it was so freaking sick.
Well, I mean, Vince Gilligan alone, is just the writing on it is so fantastic. And I don't know if you've ever read, Bryan Cranston put out a book called The Life in Parts. And I don't know how much... I mean, obviously you're a Breaking Bad fan, but I became... sort of obsessed with Cranston for a while, and just because to get into that role, I was like, and just being an actor, I sort of appreciated that. So I read his his book he put out, and there's just some really cool connections with Vince Gilligan. He meets him years before Breaking Bad, and then ends up meeting him again. I don't know, it's just really cool. But I didn't know you're such a Breaking Bad fan. That's wicked.
Are you a Malcolm in the Middle fan?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great show. Great show. And I mean, that was like, Cranston talks a lot about that in his book. Talks about how it was just, I mean, he talks about that being aside from Breaking Bad, that was like just one of the most joyous pieces of work he ever got to do every day because of his character. It was Cal, the character.
Yeah, Cal.
He said that just every episode Cal would get into something so ridiculous, and he talks about it in the book. There's a big chapter on it. And anyway, I'm just a Cranston fan, so that's cool to know you are too, man.
Super, yeah. So it was when the band started in the basement, and next thing you're playing in a desert.
Yeah,
like
where your favorite show is.
Yeah, and I was like tripping, like we're all tripping the fuck out.
Yeah,
right?
no
like,
kidding.
It was sick.
Yeah,
so sick.
You were just a bit of blue meth away from like full circle of
dude. Like I can,
or maybe you did some blue meth.
like I can literally close my eyes and like it's like I can remember driving up and down the street. We got Dunkin' Donuts. Like I remember everything, and it was like the sickest place. Nice. Like one of my favorite spots, like just outside of like Arizona. Like that was so sick there. Like I love it. I want to go back for sure. Actually, you know what? That same show was one of the first times that we got a meal at the show, and this is a good one. A fan brought us ground beef in a Ziploc bag that she had cooked at home and brought us tacos, and we all had tacos.
Oh my God.
But it was like one of the freezer bags full of ground beef, and we ate it, and like I would never eat that now because I am so afraid of everything. And
but we
were like back then we were like so hyped up that we had food at a show, and it was like, yo, like we're rock stars, and like a 2-liter bag of ground beef.
It's funny the little things you remember when you're like at a point where you're like you probably haven't eaten a half decent meal in months, maybe or weeks, and you're just like, and then you're like, ground beef in a bag, let's do this.
Yeah, and
it's like Taco Bell on steroids.
We never got sick. It was awesome, man. Nice. So cool.
I want to talk Nine Lives. That I guess it was really the only record that Party Cat full length that you guys put out. And I mean, you guys. I mean, in the middle of it, you had to. Did you not have to switch singers? You ended up getting a new singer in kind of the middle of it.
Yep, switch singers, switch studios. 3 studios technically.
Yeah,
that we did it.
That's a very interesting time for you guys, and I know the feeling of switching studios and like the ebbs and flows and trials and errors. But man, talk a little bit about that. How like it had to have its frustrating times, I suppose, right? Learning. I guess
now that I look back, it was just all we didn't know what we were doing. Right. That's all it boiled down to. No one really knew what we were doing. We didn't know what the band's potential was. We didn't know what we wanted to do. So in the moment, I suppose, it almost felt like this is how it's supposed to be. You know, it's like being in a toxic relationship, I suppose. Like, you know.
Such as being in a band sometimes.
Yeah, right.
Sometimes,
and it's like you're in it and you're like, well, this is normal because this, like, for me, this is, and I think for all the guys, I mean, Josh had been in another band before. But I don't really know the history of his old band, but I'm fairly sure that they had done quite a bit of stuff. So, but for me, like, this was normal. I was like, oh, like, you know, this happens and this happens, but I don't think it's normal, but who's really to say, right? Every band has its own dynamic. Did it make us, like, you know, like the butterfly effect, really, right?
Totally, yeah.
So we just really didn't know what we were doing, but we just rolled with it.
Yeah.
I mean,
which you kind of have to, right?
You know, like at one point, our old singer was like, I don't want the drummer to be in the band anymore. And then the drummer was like, I don't want the singer to be in the band. And like we were trying to write a record. We were trying to kick people out, trying to hire people. And it was just like,
it's like this big cesspool of dating. You're all dating each other. It's like this,
you know what I mean?
Thing.
While we were still trying to write parts of the record, and nonetheless, somehow we pulled this together between of 3 studios, 2 singers, 2 drummers, and songs that were being written basically on the way here. Like I remember like the drummer and the singer like messaging me being like, oh man, we're on the way to like your house. Because actually we recorded majority of it here.
You guys, and you did a lot of the vocal work at my studio at the time was called Lime Green Studio. Yeah.
And I remember the guys texting me being like, oh, we're on our way to Ian's right now. Oh, and we just wrote some sick lyrics, man. Like, it's going to be awesome. Can't wait to try them out in the studio. And I was like,
You're sweating.
Wow. We had like 11 or 12 songs written. And I remember we were like middle of recording this album. And the singer didn't have lyrics to the tracks yet.
Yeah, not uncommon, though. There's a couple of bands that'll do that. I do not ever do that.
Again, it's just like,
yeah.
Is that normal or is it abnormal? Who's really to say?
Yeah, processes are different for different bands, of course. Yeah,
and it whatever it happened. So we pulled it together, and like we were just talking about, it definitely brought us to a lot of places I never thought we would get to, and I don't mean just like physical locations, but like a lot of milestone, like that I look back now, you know. And
well, we were talking about a cool story. You were saying you finally got to play with a couple of heroes of yours, and not only did you get to play with them, you kind of found out later they were wearing your shirts, man.
Yeah, so
that's really cool.
When we brought this idea of this album and we brought it to you, and I remember we were talking like right when that Every Time I Die album came out, X Lives, and it was like the shit. And I was like, yeah, Keith Buckley, and like the guitar work, Jordan Buckley, Andy Williams, and it's just we brought it here, being like, we want to sound like this. And then like, did any of us really sit down in this studio and be like, you know, 2 or 4 or 6 months after this, do you think that you're going to be playing with these guys and they're going to be watching your band play? And I'd be like, no way. And sure enough, it was actually, you know, Legs.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
He had been in the band for so long. He was like, oh, I want to do a hometown show with E-Tid because they always do the Buffalo show. And they're like, okay, we'll give it to you. And that's what we play with them. And I remember Keith. I remember Jordan. I remember Andy all watching our band play. And like, these are like, in my mind, obviously they're not like massive dudes like physically, but like, looking at them, they were like giants, like just watching us, and we're like, oh my god. And Andy had come over to the table, Jordan came over to the table, you know, they gave us some kind words. We tossed them some shirts, which they were later spotted.
This is for everyone listening and watching. We're talking about Every Time I Die. I don't think we specified that yet, but we're talking about the band Every Time I Die. And continue, Steve. Sorry.
And like super fans, like this band, we were like basically trying to be them. Like, we want to be Every Time I Die. Like, not like them, we wanted to be them.
Right.
And sure enough, we wanted to be them so bad that we like manifested it into the universe that we were gonna be playing with them. And then it wasn't like that was the pinnacle when we started playing with our heroes, and then they started coming more and more often. Now it was the Norma Jeans,
right,
and He Is Legend, which I fucking hate that band, but like everyone in my band loved that band,
right.
And I remember getting the show offer for that, and I was like sitting in the van. We were on tour at that time, which is again sick. I never thought I'd be on tour getting show offers for other shows,
right.
And I remember seeing that text from, it was Travis Porter, being like, yo, do you guys want to play with He Is Legend? And I used to fucking hate that band because they just would blare it for hours and hours. And I don't know if they like truly loved it or just really wanted to piss me off or both. But
Probably
I almost like ignored the text.
Right.
To be like, yo, I'm not fucking telling these guys. And I was like, yo, do you guys want to play with He Is Legend? They're like, what? And yeah, like, again, like just the distance and the space in between the big bands started growing smaller, and we started playing with all these bands at the end, and they were just like falling like flies. Like, I can't even remember, like He Is Legend, the Norma Jeans, the Every Time I Dies, the Warped Tours, which is now we're like hanging out with the guys on Bring Me the Horizon, right. And guys in Chelsea, like these bands I don't even like, that were just massive bands, and we're like chilling with them. Like, I remember on this last tour that we even did, the American one, like we were hanging out with bands at shows that we were just going to because we were on tour, and we would like show up. I'm like, hey, like Mott the Flames, remember us? We played? Yeah, man, come to the show. And they were like getting us into their show and like hanging out on their tour buses. And we're like, what the hell is going on here? Like, how is this happening?
Right.
And we were at that level. I always say we were like a shooting star. We came in, we were bright, and we were gone. Like, that was it. It really went quickly. Like, it was like that. And now that I look at it,
that Warped Tour type touring too, because I did the Warped Tour back in 2001 for a few weeks, and that type of touring, there's no other type of touring, especially in a van and trailer. And I read somewhere recently that, or at least a few years back, that you're actually not like allowed to do that tour in a van and trailer anymore.
2 weeks, yeah. So 2 weeks is the max they'll let you do, and then they won't let you do anymore. Just too many deaths, too many van accidents, because bands don't realize
dangerous.
how much.
The driving and
touring
and
is
the check-in
one thing.
time. And
Yeah, the touring is one thing. You drive, you go to the show, you play, you sleep, you go to the next place.
if you're lucky, you sleep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on
the
Warped
Warped Tour, it's you're outside all day in the blistering heat, selling, meeting, promoting.
Yeah.
Then you play, then you get in the car, get in the van, you're gone again. It's not like you're like it is.
And you have to, when we were doing it, we had to make check-in. If you didn't make check-in, you didn't get to play. And I remember the check-in was quite early, and yeah, you had to drive all night.
Yeah, because the other bands are on buses. They don't care.
Yeah.
They go on the bus, they sleep, and then they go.
I mean, you know, it definitely puts a little extra hair on your chest.
Yeah.
But man, like that type of touring, like I remember being able to kind of like rub the dirt off your arms because you're just like, I am a mess right now. But they did, I remember them taking good care in the sense that, I mean, this was 2001 when I did it. And the band I was playing in at the time were called Jersey, and we were on Fueled by Ramen, and everything was like well set up. It was a nice, like we had catering, and which was nice, and you got your water a day, and then your case of beer every other day. So it was good. I just remember a power generator and a fan.
We never got that.
See, so I think I had.
We never even got on the Warped Tour. We just did the Canadian dates.
Oh, okay.
Like
well, but even still, that's just enough. Like,
and we were once we got we did the shows, they were taking our like 30% of our merch for the day.
Oh yeah, they were.
Like,
I don't know if they. I don't
and
think
all
they
the
did
other
that
bands,
back
we
into-
watched them like when they're like, oh, they weren't keeping a tally. They're like, oh, how much did you sell? And we were the only bands in the entire line of the independent bands or the day of bands. They're like, oh, how much did you sell? They're like $20. Meanwhile, I watched them like they were slinging merch.
You're
like,
the honest to God Canadians. They're like, oh,
well,
this is.
well, no, they were Canadian bands too.
Okay.
And because we actually cared and wanted to like impress them,
Oh, okay.
they're like, how much did you sell? And I remember like that was the first time we had reached like that much merch. Like we did like 2,000 in one day.
Yeah.
And we gave them
Which
30.
Warped Tour was good for. Yeah.
Oh my
absolutely.
goodness.
Yeah.
Like $2,000 in one day, which is a lot for our band. Like we would maybe on a lucky day do 200, 300, 400 most. We
Right.
did 2,000 in one day and we gave them 30%. Like,
Wow.
and
You're very
you know,
kind.
because
Kevin Lyman's like, hey, thanks, man.
well, maybe we figured they would see this like, oh my God, Party Cat is like generating numbers like they're doing, and you know, and whatever. It did help us the next year.
Maybe
but
it did. I mean, Kevin, I don't even know if I think I met Kevin once on that during that Warped Tour whole stint, and I mean, he was a nice enough fella. I remember that Alien Ant Farm were on that Warped Tour, and then they got kicked off because they shit talked H2O, and Kevin Lyman was like, "Oh, that's my favorite band, so you guys can get the fuck off my tour." So I remember that was kind of funny. But okay, well, let's talk a little bit about kind of career shifts because you're a real estate agent now, Steve.
I am. I'm a real estate agent. It's pretty weird how this all happened.
Drive a nice car, selling homes. There you go.
You know,
Used to
I
play in
always-
the Screamo band.
I always did construction when we weren't touring.
Right.
So I had 50. Like if we're talking about a house as a whole, I learned how to build a house in all my free time when I was basically just trying to support the band.
Right.
And when this new opportunity presented itself, a mutual friend of ours who is a real estate agent, and she said, you know, why don't you bring your construction knowledge to this business? And I never really thought about it.
Right.
So when this kind of fell on my lap, it kind of made sense because I do have all this construction experience. So if I know how to build a house, now I can learn how to sell one. And it's not really like I spent like 10 years in the construction industry. So it's like I'm just building on my career now.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So I do bring that to the table. Whereas, you know, a lot of these realtors don't really know how to build a house.
Is it realtor or realtor?
I prefer realtor because
Can you say both?
realtor.
Do you ever
realtor,
watch the Santa Clarita Diet?
Yeah, realtor. Yeah. I never dropped the realtor because it's like phonetically, if you're going the way
Yeah.
it's spelled, it's realtor.
Right.
You know, but that's how that kind of came about.
And you
so.
seem to enjoy it, right? I mean, this is a
Yeah, I'm just coming to my year mark. Technically August 1st is when I started in 2017.
nice.
And I had a really good year.
Nice.
For me, it's been amazing. I've always been in a band, and we were always like dirt poor.
Yeah.
And this last year has been really great. I think it's a lot of beginner's luck. I shouldn't have this much success in the first year, but I'm just rolling with it.
Good for you.
It's been interesting.
And you're working mainly in GTA, right? Greater Toronto area. And
yeah. So if I broke it down to a statistic, I did 5 deals. 3 of them in Toronto, 1 in Brampton, and 1 in Cambridge. So
you're kind of all over.
Yeah.
Nice, man.
I don't specialize in any area yet.
Okay.
I have a lot of experience just based on my last clients with Toronto.
Yep.
And that seems where a lot of the action is happening. Like as far as action, I mean a lot of the feeding frenzy. Whereas, actually, I just did a deal in Milton actually as well. I totally forgot about that one.
Oh, there you go.
It hasn't closed yet, but
Milton is the new. It's like the
Mecca. Yeah, it really is. It is. But Toronto, it's like the rat race. Like everyone, it's literally a feeding frenzy.
It's like when you drive in Toronto, you have to wear your driving jacket. Yep. So when you sell a house, and you have to wear your house jacket.
It really is. And the attitudes, like the
preconceived notions.
Yeah, preconceived notions. It really is. It's like the traditional realtor. Like you gotta have your Benz, you gotta have your Armani.
Realtor, not realtor.
Yeah, the real realtor. Yeah. So, and I got in there. I was dropped in, and it was like intense.
Yep.
And
sometimes the best way to do things, though, right? Just
you know what? The deal I did do there, it was in the hottest area in Toronto, which is the Leslieville, South Riverdale. Cabbagetown, and like I was getting eaten alive. Like I lost 5 bids with my clients.
Shit.
And it wasn't, after that long, we started like, am I doing something wrong? Are they doing something wrong? And we're talking like we're bidding 200,000-300,000 over asking prices, like not like 50 grand, 75, like 200 grand over houses and still losing.
Wow.
So eventually we kind of, I used my intuition and figured a little secret out. Again, this is because I was losing, and I don't like losing. So kind of pulled something out of my butt there, and we managed to land them something at an amazing price. So I may not be a realtor, but I am a real realtor. So
you can put that on your card. I pull things out of my butt.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to do the final segment of the podcast here. It's called The Shit I'm Into.
Ironically, because I'm pulling things out of my ass, and now the shit I'm into.
The shit I'm into right now, Sirius XM radio in my truck. I listen to the Highway 56 because I love country music right now. What's the shit you're into, Steve?
Man, honestly, like I don't think anything's really changed. I've always been kind of into the same shit. I'm like one of those dudes. Everything is just literally, I just go with what I know. Still into music.
Yep.
Like we talked about this at the beginning. I got into heavy music with Under Oath. And now like Under Oath is back. I'm like obsessed with their album. Still into music. I've always been into cars. Now I'm back into cars. Always been into fashion.
So the shit you're into is a lot of shit.
Yeah,
a lot of shit.
Fashion,
cars, music.
There
you go. Well, Steve, got any socials you want to plug? You want to plug your real realtor stuff?
Yeah. So I just launched my new website. Actually,
Nice.
It's pretty cool. Just www.stevesap.com.
Nice.
You can link to all my channels from there. It's mostly, I'm just rocking Instagram right now. That's back to Steve. But I would advise everyone to check out the website. I put a lot of time and work into it. And it's definitely not traditional realtor style.
Nice.
And actually, I do bring my passions into this business. So it's fashion heavy, it's lifestyle heavy. And yeah, it's actually really cool. I'm actually a big fan of my own stuff. I didn't do it. I mean, I paid someone to work with me, but it is really cool stuff. So
nice.
I expect everyone to check it out.
Well, Steve Sapienza, there you go. Thanks for being on the show, dude. I really appreciate it. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe next further into the realtor career.
All right.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah. Peace.
In Blackwood talk, smile.